So welcome back to my channel. My name is Donna, and every Thursday I upload new content that brings inspiration, motivation, revelation, and restoration to individuals and families. Now, if that's something that interests you, please click the subscribe button so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video. Today, we will be talking about the 4 temperaments or personality types in a little bit more detail, and that was a request from subscribers. So I want to go ahead and do this. So stay tuned, I'll be right back. Just a quick disclosure here, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a psychologist, and everything that I share on my channel is strictly my opinion, and I do speak from experience. Now today, I have been studying temperaments since around 1982 when I saw my mother reading a book called Understanding the Male Temperament, What Every Husband Wishes. Well, let me just look at it right here. I actually have a copy of the book. My mom gave me the original back when it was written in the 70s. I saw her reading the book and studying it for years. I didn't know I would be needing to read that book myself several years later when I was having some problems in my marriage. And so this book says, Understanding the Male Temperament, What Every Man Would Like to Tell His Wife About Himself But Won't. Now, while I was reading this book for my own situation, I noticed that I had a lot of those characteristics and temperament types in the book. So this book, although it says Understanding the Male Temperament, it is interchangeable with women as well. Just to let you know, if you don't know about these 4 basic temperaments, I'm going off the one that Hippocrates came up with. He is the father of medicine, and he was the one that came up with the sanguine, choleric, phlegmatic, and melancholy. So he would describe bile, blood, phlegm, that kind of thing, with his observations on people's bodies. But later on, those same words were adopted into psychology many, many years ago. And so I like to use choleric, the phlegmatic, the melancholy, and sanguine as my basis to describe temperaments and personality types, because it has been probably the oldest description or describing personalities that I know of for thousands of years. There's 4 basic temperaments, and I'm going to be going over those. Behind me, you have the choleric, the sanguine, phlegmatic, and the melancholy. And I will just say this, that out of the 4, 2 of them are extroverts and 2 of them are introverts. Extrovert is somebody like myself, and I actually wrote down what the Merriam-Webster definition is. Extrovert, a typically gregarious and unreserved person who enjoys and seeks out social interaction. Introvert is considered in the Merriam-Webster dictionary a person whose personality is characterized by introversion, a typically reserved or quiet person who tends to be introspective and enjoys spending time alone. That is the description according to Merriam-Webster. Out of the 4, we're predominantly one of them. So for example, I am a sanguine. So I am an extrovert. Naturally, by nature, I am outgoing, bubbly. I am an extrovert. I like people. I like being around them. I like talking. Whereas an introvert would be your phlegmatic and your melancholy. And although I do have tendencies to be the darker, they call it the darker mood, which is the melancholy, that would be my secondary. I do have a little bit of choleric also, but my 2 predominant temperament types are the sanguine and the melancholy, so I'm called a sandmel. I also, like I said, have a little bit of choleric in me too. So you may be two of the strong temperaments. You may be very outgoing. You may have the double portion extrovert, meaning you could be a choleric sanguine, a chlorsan, or you could be a san chlor. Let's go over the choleric. The choleric is a natural born leader. Pretty much most of your presidents are choleric. They are leaders. They know how to lead, and it comes natural for them. Decisive, they're courageous. I mean, they are practical. They are very practical people. So when you see someone like that, you see good strengths in them, but all the temperaments have weaknesses too. And the choleric is known to be the person that can get angry. I mean, sanguines get angry too. Like, we can just get angry in an instant, but we forgive really quickly. Whereas the choleric, they seethe. I mean, they hold on to stuff, and their anger is really intense. They have a very hard time forgiving. And so they hold on to anger. They are insensitive to other people's feelings, unaffectionate. Those are some things, some weaknesses of the choleric. Now, the sanguine, their weaknesses is they're undisciplined, weak-willed, disorganized. Melancholies are probably the most organized, but they're rigid. They're to the T, and they've got to follow the book, by the book. They're not very flexible, but they are somebody that's loyal, somebody you can trust. The melancholy is somebody that has some great strengths. They're artistic. They're the ones that are your artists. They're your musicians. They are very meticulous and detailed. And then you're phlegmatic. Man, I wish I had some phlegmatic. Phlegmatics are really easygoing. They're calm. They're cool. They're not going to explode and blow up all over you ever. They're not going to get all touchy and don't touch me, like the melancholy. But they are just so easygoing. They're probably the temperament that most people like. I mean, they are likable. And so if you have phlegmatic, you're probably very well liked. Now, the other thing is they are leaders too, but they are not the kind of leader that will go out of their way to say, I'll take the lead. They're not. They're going to step back. And in fact, they're not going to offer to help unless somebody comes to them and says, hey, I need your help with this. Can you help me? But they're natural born leaders too. They just don't come out and say it. They just don't step up to the plate and say, I'll do it. They are lazy. They're kind of selfish. They can tend to be fearful as well. They internalize a lot of things. There's a lot of strengths and weaknesses in each one. There are no temperaments that outweigh another, that's better than another. We're all made up of 2 or more temperaments, mostly 2, sometimes 3, and rarely 4. I'm going to go over these really quick. So if you want to grab a pen, or just, go over this again, press rewind or something. I'll go over the choleric first. And I don't think I even gave Tim LaHaye credit for this wonderful book. He is an amazing, he passed away already. I give him all the credit because he put in his time and energy, and he worked very hard on this book, which is a Bible for me, to be honest, when it comes to temperaments and personality. The weaknesses of the choleric, and I'm just going to go over a few. They're hostile, cruel, unforgiving, self-sufficient, domineering, opinionated, proud, and crafty. Now, some of their strengths, they're determined, strong-willed, independent, productive, decisive, practical, visionary, optimistic, courageous, self-confident, and a born leader. The sanguine, their weaknesses: undisciplined, weak-willed, restless, disorganized, unproductive, undependable, loud, egocentric, exaggerates, fearful, and insecure. Some of the strengths for the sanguine is they're outgoing, charismatic, warm, friendly, responsive, talkative, enthusiastic, carefree, compassionate, and generous. Now, do any of these sound like you yet? The phlegmatic, their weaknesses is unmotivated, blase. Indolent, spectator, selfish, stingy, stubborn, self-protective, indecisive, and fearful. And then I know I just went over some of these. Strengths of this introvert is they are calm and quiet, easygoing, likable, diplomatic, efficient and organized. They're dependable, conservative, practical, reluctant leader, dry humor. And then let's go over to the melancholy. The weaknesses of melancholy: moody, negative, critical, rigid and legalistic, self-centered, touchy, revengeful, persecution prone, unsociable, theoretical, and impractical. And their strengths: they're gifted, analytical, perfectionist, conscientious, they're loyal, they're aesthetic, they're idealistic, they're sensitive, self-sacrificing, and self-disciplined. So those are just some of, if not all of, the basics of those temperaments. Look at yourself and kind of study what you are first. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? When you go into a crowd, are you excited about talking to people? Or do you kind of go in your own little corner, or you're very quiet, you're observant, you're just standing in the crowd, just kind of observing, maybe even being judgmental and critical. And, if you're an extrovert, if you're like the leader, the choleric and sanguine, the choleric's the leader, the sanguine's the one that pretty much they're known to enter a room mouth first. And basically these 4 temperaments, like I said, you can either have 2 or 3, rarely 4. Thank God we're not all the same. And that's what makes our world such a beautiful place to live in, is that we're all different. There are no 2 temperaments that are the same. There are no 2 people that are the same. We are all different. And so that is what I love about temperaments. I love that I can understand people. These temperaments help me figure out why someone might be the way they are. Because if we don't understand each other, then we're going to have a lot of friction, a lot of fighting, a lot of bickering back and forth because we don't understand one another. So I would encourage you to maybe pick up a book or look up online, look up the temperaments, maybe pick up Tim LaHaye's book on understanding the male temperament, which, remember, there's the basic temperaments are interchangeable between men and women. And so I hope that this helped. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed studying it over the years, and I still enjoy studying the temperaments. If we can laugh at ourselves, at our weaknesses, and the way that we can be, I think that we can go a long way. Also, if we will look within ourselves and figure out, why do I act the way I act, and how can I change some of the things? Like, for example, in my own life right now, I've been writing a book since 2007. That's a sanguine for you. I'm a San Mel. So if I was more melancholy, I would probably have that book written by now. Or definitely, if I was a choleric, that book would be done. Because I am sanguine, first, I am undisciplined. It's very hard for me to stay organized, but those are things that I'm still working on. And so with God, all things are possible. Those things that we're weak in, I want to encourage you to stick with your strengths and those things that you're really good at naturally, because those are the things that are going to give you the greatest fulfillment. And then as far as those things that are weaknesses for you, well, like in my situation, I have to learn discipline because I must finish my books. So I need discipline. I need organization. And so those things do not come easy for me. Those are the things that I have to learn and I have to strengthen. I hope this helps and encourages you. And I want to remind you to remember to be courageous, to speak the truth in love. And I will see you back here next week, Thursday. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Bye.